Hey, what's going on, everybody? Chris Gentry with My Service Area back with another video. Excited this time because we've done a lot of interviews with the trash can cleaning side of the world. Well, today we've got kind of a special of two services, lawn care and mosquito services. And with us today is Jim from up in Pennsylvania with Premier Lawn Services and Mosquito Services. How you doing, Jim?
Good, good. I'm actually from New York, not Pennsylvania. Yes.
Why did I think?
It's just north, Syracuse, New York area. So
let me restart. I'm just kidding. My mistake.
It's all good.
So with New York. So Jim, thanks for joining us today and sharing some of your story. For the audience, just give a brief intro to your businesses and what you're doing, because I know you do quite a few things.
This year will be my fourth year. I just finished. Got into the green industry. Started with I had an interest in the chemical stuff, so treating the lawns, fertilizer, weed control. So I started doing it on my own lawn, and it was actually about this time for 5 years ago, I think. And I was like, I'm gonna get licensed, and so I spent all winter doing the testing and the licensing, this, that. So come springtime, I was ready to go. And I was the guy that could fertilize, the weed control, but I also did the mowing, the shrubs, everything. And it all stemmed from me having another business. And I would get done early in the morning with that one. And I was like, what am I doing the rest of my day? And I felt like I should be busy. So I started doing the lawn thing, and went from kind of part-time thing, kind of turned into a full-time thing. And so I have some people that help me in different, areas of each business, and so I can manage both of them and do both a little bit as well. So that's how that works now.
You mentioned an earlier business. What business was that?
I actually deliver Thomas's English muffins and Arnold bread, and like out west and stuff, it might be like Oro wheat or a brown berry or something like that. But I do that. I have like 6 accounts. Well, 5 of them are major accounts, so it definitely is a decent route. And I've been doing that for almost 20 years, probably. My friend's dad used to own the route, because it's like a franchise thing,
right?
And you own a territory and the rights to sell that product in that territory. And he owned it for many years, and I helped him out, and I was like a side job sort of thing. I helped him out, and when I was waiting for him to retire, and when he retired, I bought it from him. And so I've owned it for like 7-ish, I think, somewhere since 2015. So 7 years.
That's interesting. I know this is a little off topic, but being an entrepreneur and doing a lot of different things. So how does that work? So when you go to a location, do you go in and take an inventory and then come back out to the truck and get the amount that you need and then take it back into the store to stock?
So the way it works is, we'll use Walmart for example, because everybody has a Walmart. We order the product. From day one, it's tough to start from day one, but I know what's going to sell roughly. And we have a computer program that we use to do the ordering, and it kind of goes off the trends of weeks past and years past. And it kind of puts a number in there for us, and here's what you're expected to sell. And we order throughout the week. I go on there once a week, do my orders for the next week and a half. And then the next week I get on there, do my orders for the next week and a half. And every day I drive out to a warehouse, and everything I ordered for that day is boom, right there in front of me at my loading dock. And then I take it, break it down per store.
Gotcha.
And then I just bring it in. Then so I drive to Walmart, I wheel it in the back room, and then it's my responsibility also to put it up on the shelf, because I'm a vendor. Takes care of their own product. So we go in and we'll pull any returns, stales, or anything as we're putting stuff up. Things that have sat there for like usually about a week, or maybe depending on the codes for the product. And we stock the shelves, and just our job is just to keep it full. The more I sell to the stores and not take out, the more money I make.
Gotcha.
If I did not sell any bread, I would make no money. In fact, I would lose money. Because I have like truck payments and insurance, et cetera.
Right. Right. Now, so you use a truck for that, or you use a trailer?
Yeah, I have a box truck.
Box truck. Gotcha. Interesting. I've always, I see those people all the time when I'm going to grocery stores, and I'm just always curious how that
And
business
some
works.
some people work for the companies like, like Pepsi, those
Right.
guys work for Pepsi. Like Pepperidge Farm, they're similar to us. Some of those guys, even the cracker guys, the cookie guys, they have their own routes. Sometimes the Snyder's Pretzels guy, sometimes they have their own routes or territories. And then some other people just work for their companies.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's similar
All
to
right.
FedEx actually, because FedEx Texas, a lot of people don't know that FedEx is the same way.
Yeah, I just learned that recently.
They're like a franchise. They're a
Yeah.
little different. Like we have a lot of drivers, at least in my area. From my understanding, there's only like 5 guys that own like all of Central New York, which is pretty big. And all 5 guys have like 5 to 10 trucks each. So it's, whereas me, it's just one, truck. I'm more of like the solo, owner operator type thing with the Thomas route. Whereas the FedEx guys, they're just more like, they have their crews, they go out, and many, many employees. So,
Right. Interesting. All right.
yeah.
Well, let's get,
Yeah.
I was curious, so I had to ask,
Yeah.
if you don't know, ask questions. It's a great way to learn. So let's jump over to the lawn care.
Yeah.
So tell us about your lawn care business. What services you offer. Do you have a crew? Give us some insight to that world.
So like I said, I started out doing everything, and now we primarily do weed control, fertilizer, mosquito spraying. And then my job is to make sure your lawn stays, healthy. So we'll just do some leaf cleanup once leaf cleanup is after our fertilizer season anyways. So it kind of keeps us busy through then. And then I do a little bit of residential plowing in the winter as well. I wanted to try that a couple years ago. I was like, it works. It was tough at first with the bread route, because I'm like, how do I promise these people I'm going to get them plowed out first thing in the morning when I have to go deliver bread first thing in the morning? I figure out a way around it. I get up super early, go pick up my bread, come home, plow people out, then go deliver the bread. I only had to do that a couple times, fortunately, but the rest of the time is just plowing in the afternoon. I get done with the bread, this or that. So, but yeah, as the years progressed, I cut back on the mowing. Last year we did only 1 day of mowing as opposed to 3, and then
when you say you only did what? So how many accounts does that consist of when you're doing 1 day of
well,
mowing?
that's so right now, currently, I've actually got numbers right there. I have 198 fertilizer clients roughly last year as of August 6th. And I swear it was 150, but that number says 134. So there's about 140-ish probably of mosquito clients. Some of them have combined, they're the same client, just they have both services. And that kept us pretty busy this year. We had a couple weeks where, in between, where we had a little bit of a lull where there was nothing really scheduled for that week. I was hoping to grow a little bit more this year than I expect. That my goal was much higher than what actually happened, unfortunately. And I don't know, and some of it probably was my pricing with the fertilizer. The increase of the cost of fertilizer went up this year significantly, and I probably, I can't absorb that cost, but I probably could have absorbed a little bit of my margins,
Right.
and probably did a little bit better. And I was trying to do other things, like soil amendments and little things that, yeah, they're great for the lawn, but the people around here are just like, I don't know what that is. I don't care. And I'm not paying for that,
Right.
And,
How did you handle those conversations regarding pricing? Because I'm getting ready. My communications are going out about my price increase for my service.
Well, people who had me, I typically kept. There was only a couple that there are probably a few that were just like, you know what? Nah, I think we're going to skip it this year, because fertilizing a lawn and treating the weeds is a luxury, in my opinion. It's not like somebody has to cut their lawn, otherwise the town's going to get on them. You don't need to do this. And so when people were cutting stuff out this year because of inflation, I mean, that's one of the things that they were cutting out. But I did have a lot of people, like I did some serious marketing at the beginning of the season, and I had a lot of calls, and it was just like, what's it cost? And I sent them a price, and they're like, pfft. and they don't, sometimes they get back to you, so-and-so's going to do it cheaper, I have to pry them for it. It's like, hey, did you get that, quote? What do you think? And there were so many of them. It's like, I can't physically call every single one and talk to them on the phone about why and this and that. But I some of them emailed me back and said, oh, so-and-so's going to do it cheaper, or I'm going to just not do it this year. I didn't realize it cost that much, or, I had those kind of conversations. But the mosquito like tripled this year compared to last year as far as the number of clients, therefore, and the dollar amount, because that went up as well. But that's because last year we had really, really bad mosquitoes.
Yeah. So. Good problem for you to have.
Yeah. It was a very wet season last year, and that's why they were so bad. Right. Even the people that were getting service last year was just like, I don't think it worked. I'm like, trust me, it'd be way worse. We've killed them. They're just that bad right now.
Right.
And that's what we dealt with last year. Unfortunately, this year was made us look good because it wasn't that wet. So, we still did good. People were happy, but I only had a couple callbacks this year, whereas last year it was a lot of them. So.
Gotcha. So you mentioned marketing, and we were chatting briefly before we started recording about marketing. So what channels did you use at the beginning of this year for marketing? Was it, strictly Google, Facebook, or, combination of both?
I did a lot of stuff, actually. I really hammered hard this year. I do every door direct mail, and I've done that the last couple of years, and it gets the phone ringing early in the season. And like I said, I had a lot of phone calls, and I probably could have capitalized on those better if my pricing was probably a little bit, more on par with some of the others. Like, I won't compete with True Green, but right. Like, other people that, are not, the corporate companies like that are in my area, I might compete with them a little bit because, they do a decent job, and that's that. But so I did a lot of postcards. What else was there? So there's Google ads. And then I also did some Facebook work too. I teamed up with Lightspeed Social this year.
Yep.
And had them do some stuff pretty much all summer long. And so my stuff was in front of people's faces constantly.
Right.
Yeah.
The seven touches, right? Before the next phone call.
Yep. Yeah. And then even just posting stuff in those local groups on Facebook personally, I'll do that, myself, and sharing things, into those groups. That's how I get a lot of the work, especially in like the winter and like the snow or the fall cleanups and things like that. I get a lot of work that way. But I went hard with the every door direct mail, and it does get expensive. But right now I'm not at the situation where like I need to live off of this job either.
Right.
Off the lawn care. I'm trying to build it, and I don't mind putting that extra money into it up front.
Right. So I've got a question about that, because that channel of marketing comes up a lot in the can cleaning world. Is that, everybody knows it's expensive, but is that a game of, or I should say, is that the channel where you have to be consistent? Because if you do it one time, basically you might as well take that money and burn it in your backyard. I've heard people say that. But so, what's your thoughts on that, since you've done it?
I don't tip. Last year I targeted a couple neighborhoods twice, but I'm not going to get a call from somebody that doesn't need mosquito service or currently use it, or doesn't need lawn care service or currently use it. They're not going to be like, oh, you know what? I think I want lawn care service. It's not. It's hey, oh yeah, it's that season again. We used this company or that company. Let's see if this guy's a better price. And I'd be willing to bet half my calls were that. And the reason for it was because everyone's price went up this year.
Right.
And they wanted, and I heard that so many times, my price went up. So I'm curious as to what you are. I just had a call earlier today for Mosquito. You're talking for like next year, right? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I go, what? And she goes, our other competitor raised their prices. And I'm like, oh, or the other provider. And it was True Green. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, here's what they do, and here's what we do. And she's like, oh, okay, thanks. I'm just kind of shopping around, and that was that. But I sent out like, I think it was like 40,000 of them this year.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And because what I did is I blanketed, like if I was servicing this town, I blanketed the entire town. If I service that, I put the whole town. And but then the nice thing with every door direct mail is you can do it down to the street.
Right.
So, or the route, not the street, but the route. And so there were certain parts of the route that I didn't do in certain towns because they're on the outskirts and, or, more suburb or something. And I sent out 40,000 one time to all those people, and I got hundreds of calls. Probably, I was very busy with the calls. I probably could have like I said, capitalized on it better. But I did not send again. I might send again next spring, but I'm actually trying to look, and I don't even care if I have to pay a little bit more if it was more targeted, more. See, I've talked to some other, there's that like Send Gym. I haven't talked to them, but I know that costs more. But that's more like of a 5 around. You target the clients I already have. I've spoke with Real Green. They were supposed to get back to me on some stuff, but I haven't seen it yet. But Real Green software for fertilizer, like they're really great with that, but they're really good with marketing as well, and they can target.
Is that the system you use?
No, I use Yardbook right now.
Oh, Yardbook.
Yeah, and I'm content with it, but someday, I'm planning on growing, and I'm going to need to switch.
Have you heard of Dope Marketing?
Dope? No.
Yeah, out of the Midwest. They are. It seems like a lot of people in the trash can cleaning world have used them before.
Yeah.
And they've got, like MSA where you can get down to the street. They've got where you can pick houses on the street.
Yes, that's similar with like Real Green and Sensitive, things like that. And Real Green, they were showing me how they do it. They actually pull county records. So when they send you a card, it's got your name on it. Like they know your name, who owns the house type stuff, and it's very interesting how what they pull, from the property. They pull actual properties like acreage, so you know exactly how big the property itself.
Oh, really?
Is. Like
wow.
weird stuff. You already know this information, and it's really interesting. It sounds extremely expensive. And we didn't get into it too much with that. He had a hard stop, and he was kind of just throwing some stuff out there, and I'd love to talk to him again, but I'll have to reach out to him about it. But I've heard on the forums and stuff, it's pricey, but if you're looking to grow, that's where you want to be.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, again, referencing our conversation before we hit the record button. So you've been using MSA or My Service Area since March is when you signed up.
Yeah.
And so, to help the audience, can you describe, the problems that you were experiencing before My Service Area, and then kind of where you are today using My Service Area, and where it may have you're still using it, so I'm assuming that it's still helping your business, or both of your businesses actually, with qualifying leads there in your territories.
Yeah, so March, I was sending out those people were Googling me as well at that time, and right now my Google is doing pretty well, and so people Google me. That I get calls from all over the place, and then come that spring I had hundreds of calls of people I targeted. And I got to take down a lot of information, do lots of measuring and all this other stuff. And just to get them onboarded into my system, it could take, 5 minutes, probably, let's say 5 minutes per phone call. That's or even maybe a few minutes if they sent me all their stuff on my website, all their information. I still got to get that over into my system. And by getting the MSA on there, I was able to weed out the people that aren't even in my area.
Right.
And so that definitely probably saved me quite a bit of time, especially during the busy rush in the springtime. And then like now I can sit, I think I actually have it open on a map, on a tab of my computer screen, the map, and it shows all the pins outside. And there's one area I'm thinking about. I'm like, if I'm going to move out, I'm going to move out into that area a little bit, or
because you had quite a few requests there.
Yeah, exactly. It shows that there's a few requests, and I know it's a very densely populated little area too. Nice cookie cutter lawns, and probably not the worst area to be in either. It was just let this past year, how far out do I want to expand and which direction? Because I'm all about, density, trying to keep everything in a short, narrow area. So
Yeah. So when you're out spraying, I mean, on average, how many lawns are you doing spraying in 5 days a week, or is it, like
yeah, I try to
Friday?
schedule Monday through Thursday, and sometimes Friday if I know the week's gonna be good. But if there's sketchiness throughout the week, I try to keep an open day just in case we have a rain delay. Um, and I want to probably about 17 lawns a day, probably maybe 20, pushing depending on the size of them. I have a couple big ones that take a couple hours each. So we try to those days not everything gets done, but and then it's mosquito spraying, we can do like 25 plus one guy spraying, depending on the size of the
Right.
yards.
Right.
I never really mentioned it earlier. You were asking about employees and staff. I have one guy that helps me with the lawn care, and he's been with me a couple of years. This year, he did a lot of the mowing, the weed eating, and stuff like that. And this year, he actually just graduated high school. I got him licensed, and he basically went out and did all of my work this year once he graduated high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like all of it. He's diehard. He's a great guy, a kid, and so to keep him on over the winter time, I have a bread business. I said, hey, you interested in plowing when we need to? He's like, yeah. I go, that's hit or miss. How about I just, you help me with the bread route and I'll just pay you through the winter, and it's a few hours a day, a few days a week. And so he's like, yeah, that works. And so I basically put him on like a salary through the winter time. And he's helped me with the bread business in the morning. And then we've yet, knock on wood, we haven't had to go out and plow event yet. A little north of us has, but I haven't yet, which is weird. Usually we have several inches of snow on the ground right now.
Yeah, especially in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, right.
That's good.
Yeah.
I got a question about MSA. So
Yeah.
do you look at the map quite a bit to see the pins?
Not a lot. No, I did not. I could be honestly say this year I did not. I was just busy, just taking care of stuff, not paying attention to it. And it wasn't until later, when things started to slow down, I pull it up and be like, all right, that's interesting. I did use it a lot of times when people would call me and I'm like, well, where do you live? And I'd immediately punch it into MSA or go right to my website and punch it in there.
Yep.
And before, because I either like, oh, I live over here. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, where that is.
Yeah.
Exactly. That street, I don't know it. And so sometimes I punch it in, especially if it was like one of those ones that I only service half of the town.
Right.
So oh, you're from there? Okay, let me punch this in real quick just to make sure you're in our area.
Yeah.
And then I'd look at the map and be like, all right, how far outside of this area are you? I mean, if you're on the other side of the street, okay, we'll take care of you. But it was that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, MSA is kind of a set it and forget it situation.
Yeah.
Because that the ones that are getting through are they're in your area and you can move forward and they're a qualified lead.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yep. Absolutely.
A side question, because it seems like Christmas lights. I guess I've only been in this lawn care world for the since February of this year, and it seems Christmas lights are huge in the lawn care world as an add-on. Have you ever thought about doing that, or?
I thought about it and I was like a big no. No, I love Christmas lights for my own house. I didn't do as much as it this year. Unfortunately, I have high peaked roofs. And so if I could just get on my roof and walk it, I would do lights. I would, no problem at all. But I can't walk my own roof. It's that steep. Right. And so when I hang it, I usually do icicle lights on all the peaks. And I had to go buy like the biggest extension ladder you can get just to do the highest peak of the house, and it's like, well, my wife's like, why would you do that? It's got to get done. You can't do the lower ones and not the upper ones. Right. Because I was all about it being perfect. and this is the first year I haven't hung those. I was like, I'm going to get back up. Last year, I remember being up there last year. I was like, yeah, this isn't for me anymore. I'm 40 years old now and I just not my, the height thing is just, I'm just a little over it.
I'm the same way, but it just seems like that's I mean, obviously due to the season, but
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not like, I don't have a huge staff either that I'm
Right.
trying to keep busy. If I did, I'll do anything, I just heard something. I was listening to one of the YouTube guys this morning and talked about picking up Christmas trees with a dump trailer. I'm like, that's a great idea. I would have never thought of that, and if you could actually, and I'm actually thinking about it because I'm thinking about, I have a huge clientele list on my program, my software. And I could reach out to every single one of them, and I guarantee I get a couple dozen. And I could team up with a guy that has a dump trailer. So listen, I'll give you $20 a tree. You pick them up and dump them. I'll do all the billing, all the scheduling, and I'll tell you where you got to go.
right.
And I thought about it. It's like, that's an interesting idea. After Christmas, picking up trees. Just leave them by the road. We'll pick them up and charge you $40 a tree or whatever it is. To
Right.
get rid of it.
Yeah. We're fortunate here in Charleston. Our city does it for us.
And I that's the only thing I don't know is I don't know if some of the towns just pick them up for
Right.
you if you leave
Yeah.
them roadside. I don't know that. So
Yeah.
it's something that made me think immediately this morning when I heard that.
So I've got a couple of questions. First question is, so we've talked about some systems. What software systems do you use to run your businesses?
Yard book.
And then MSA on top of that. And is there anything else?
No, I mean, I got MSA attached to my website.
Right.
And yeah, then I use Yard book for all that. And then my accountant uses QuickBooks to do
Right.
all the rest of it, and they do all my bookkeeping and accounting and all that stuff. So
Gotcha. All right. So the other question I have, since you mentioned YouTube, and when I reached out to you a couple a week or so ago, I'm a big consumer of audio, so podcasts, audio books, and I listen to a lot of the green industries podcasts. Naylor, Paul. Then I heard you on the Kid Contractor podcast, and so what for our audience? What do you listen to? What shows would you recommend listening to?
I listen to a lot of those. A lot of the green industry ones have gotten to, like, I consumed a lot of stuff when I first started this, the first few years. I mean, we're to thousands of hours, whether it was YouTube. It might have started with like Alan Hain, the lawn care nut, he's more of the DIY, but and I bumped into him at the expo and I'm like, hey, you're kind of the reason why I do what I do. Like I started doing my own lawn and now I'm, professionally do it. And he's like, that's what they all say, and him, Pete with GCI Turf. I like him. And another guy I met, he's got a good channel. And Brian's lawn maintenance is probably a big one for me.
Right.
I tried to do a lot of what he did. And then as time went on, I'm like, yeah, I'm not him. I don't need to do that. And I'm going to take a step back and do different things. But, he's a nice guy. Met him, been to his events, and he's doing good things, and he's going to go pretty far for sure. The Spencers, I've been watching a little bit of them, but like I was saying, a lot of these guys, it's like how to start a lawn care business. I already did that,
Right.
And I'm more interested now in how to grow. So I'd be more interested in like Mike Andes now. And some of these other guys, like I know Brian's passion is growing and the numbers, and but that's not where he gets his views. He gets his views from equipment and reviews and this and just I can't sit there and watch people mow lawns. I don't like it. I know, it's like, all right, let's get to the meat. I want to hear him talk,
Right.
I'm more of a listener, and I can't just sit there and watch somebody mow a lawn now, especially when I do that, or have done that. I'm more about the numbers and growing and that kind of stuff. So business mindset stuff I'm more into. I like Andy Frisella. I like the Kid Contractor podcast, as far as the YouTube, like I said, Spencer's, I'm trying to think, I got it on my phone right here. I'm actually just listening to Keith Kalfas. I do listen to some of the green industry podcasts. A lot of it is, just getting like the conversation we're having. Tell me about your business, and then that's the end of it. Okay. There's a lot of nuggets in there and stuff. The green grind I like.
Yeah.
I consume a lot of Louder Crowder, but that's not really business oriented. That's more politically and comedy type stuff. But
Right.
Yeah.
So to be mindful of your time, let's kind of wrap this up with a couple of questions. So what are your plans for next year, going into the new season? Is there anything that you're going to change, do differently, or add?
I don't know. So I said on that podcast is it, and what I got out of that one event was maybe put like trying to get some more systems in place and I can't do that until we start, and I can take video of this is how we do this and why we do this, and then and my other problem I keep thinking is I might be losing that kid that I'm working with in this.
Right.
There's a chance for that, going to a trade school or something. And if I lose them, then it's kind of starting over as far as training somebody. And so I don't know how much I do or grow, or I definitely want to grow. I mean, I want to double my revenue for next year, because I didn't hit that this year, and so I need to double it to hit what I wanted to hit this year. But as far as adding things new, probably not. But I'm going to be restructuring my actual fertilizer program a little bit. So
When you say your program, is that your offering, or
yeah? So like right now we're doing the soil amendments. I'll probably be taking those out. I'm going to be looking at the fertilizer we're using and see how I can bring my prices down.
Gotcha.
This way, to be more on par with what other people are doing in the area. So that is one thing I'm going to be doing. And I might I'm thinking about doing like a video of me like this, of talking to my clients. And I'd like to, whenever they get signed on in the spring, I can send in this video and here's what to expect from our service.
I like that idea. Yeah.
Because I get so many people, it's like, oh, you guys just sprayed. What about my dogs or this or that? And I'm like, yep. So if I can answer all these questions and they can see me talking about it, that might clear a lot of things, and then making it more personable. Because every time I send a direct mailer, it's got me and my family on it.
Oh, nice.
And I actually got this. Actually, that's another YouTuber that I like was Florida Turf Pros, Jonathan from Florida Turf Pros. I actually kind of he held up his mailer that he's used for years. I'm like, I like that. And I almost copied it. and then I just changed it throughout the season, throughout the years. And it's kind of personal because it's got a picture of my son, my two dogs, me and my wife on it. And so people call and they're like, oh, you have dogs. I'm sure it's safe for dogs. Yep. It's because the dogs are in the pictures,
It's relatable.
And kids.
Yeah.
And same with kids.
Yep.
And you have a beautiful family or this or that. And so it definitely makes it more personable, and people like that. And I can see right now I'm doing a nice job, a campaign kind of, and sending out requests for reviews to like everyone. And a lot of the responses back are, oh, Jim is this or Jim is that, so they know me by name, even though it's hundreds of clients, some of those lawns I haven't even stepped on because Frank's done most of the work, but but it's still personable. When you call, you're going to get me, and I answer the phone, and we'll deal with it. And yeah.
Nice. All right. So last question, what piece of advice would you give for somebody that is thinking about getting in the lawn care business, or maybe just finished their first year in the lawn care business or mosquito spraying, industry? What's a piece of advice that you would give to them?
I was thinking about that before. Probably know your why. Why are you doing this? And just remember that this is why I do this. Like, so, I've said in that, in the past, like the reason I do things are for my wife and my son. It started as a hobby, but now it's like, no, I do this for them, man. And I'm trying to build something that, God knows what I can do with it later, whether it's sell it or hand it down or, whatever. But know why you do it. And as far that's like, the back end stuff, but as far as like what to do in the business, Google business listing, those are the things you hear all the podcasters,
Right.
YouTubers say. But Google business listing website, I mean, these are things that you don't have them, you don't really have. You don't have a business, in my opinion. So that I would definitely start with those two. And something, you got to have some sort of landing page for people to go to,
I agree.
And you can even get one free from Google now. I mean, it's not the greatest thing in the world. It's not going to, maybe from my understanding.
But it's something.
It's something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they're just that landing page, like Google's the biggest search engine in the world. It's people just constantly Googling stuff, I remember when I first started talking to my uncle, he's like, oh, I was thinking about the name of my business. Oh, you should name it with something that starts with an A. And I go, for what? And he's like, oh, for the phone book. I go, who the hell uses those things anymore?
Right.
Like, you are way too old for this. No,
my kids don't even know what a phone book is.
Yeah, exactly. So you just Google and then, work on your reviews and post pictures and stuff too, because that's what I had my web guy doing this year when he was doing my Google ads. Part of it was he was posting pictures to my Google business listing,
right.
Keeping that up to date and fresh, and that they see a lot of action there. Think of it as social media.
Yeah,
your Google business listing. If you're putting pictures and stuff and showing things you do on there, it keeps you fresh, and Google likes that.
Yep, certainly does. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your support with MSA. We look on growing that relationship even further, but thanks a million for everything.
Absolutely. No problem.
All right. You guys have happy holidays.
You as well. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.